204.
Okay, there you go.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and jump in and call the meeting to order at 2:04. Starting with roll call, Chris Bobby.
Here.
Hello, Matthew Stevens, that's me. I'm here. Lynn.
Here.
Hello, Tina. Do not see Tina.
And I have not heard from Tina either, so.
All right. And Cosette.
And I have not heard from Cosette as well.
Tina, no Cosette. All right, Lisa.
She is not here and I have not heard from her.
Okay, no Lisa. Okay. So that leaves the four of us to kind of get things.
You have Michaela on there as well.
Oh, Michaela as well. Yep, Michaela.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, now that leaves the four of us to kind of get things going. And we will jump into the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you have a flag you can bring up?
Yeah, let me get this out of the way here. There you go.
Hey.
Thought of everything.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
The flag
United
of the
States,
United States of America, to the republic,
which it stands, one nation,
nation under God, indivisible.
liberty and justice for all. Nope. All right, and has everybody on here had a chance to look over the agenda? Okay, cool. Do I hear a motion to approve today's agenda?
Do you want to consider swapping C and B?
Oh, okay. Yes, actually, there was a request to possibly, can you bring that, or can you scroll down so they can see?
Yeah, I can just talk about it here. So the request was to switch item C and item B, so we do C first. Mainly because some of the stuff we're gonna cover in item C actually pertains to item B. So it's easier to do it that way than to go backwards, so.
That way we'll basically kind of learn how it works before we learn the rest of it. So, do I hear a motion to swap item C with item B in the workshop section?
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Chris. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Lynn, second. Thank you. So item C will now be B and B will now become C.
You need to vote for it.
Oh, that's right. And all in favor of swapping item C and item B on today's workshop agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
There's four.
Okay. And now we need to have a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Okay. Now that the agenda has been amended, do we hear a motion to approve the amended agenda? Wow.
Yeah.
To approve the amended agenda.
Okay, there's a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Lynn. All in favor of approving the amended agenda?
Aye.
I think Chris is on there, so that's
Yeah.
four of us. And let's see, next to approval of minutes from the last meeting. And has everybody had a chance to kind of look those over and thing? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from the May meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right. Motion by Lynn. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Michaela, and all in favor of approving the minutes from last meeting? That's all of us. Okay. Now, any public comments come through or anything like that?
We have not received any public comments and there are no members of the public here.
Okay. No presentations, no public hearings, no action items into workshops. First thing is to talk about the rotational art opportunities on city property and continue that conversation. I believe we have J.C. Kennedy here to kind of give us an idea of what can happen with the rec center.
Yeah, JC, I'll give you a lead in here. Let me get our pictures up. So where is my screen share? Screen. I share this. So JC Kennedy is our Parks and Rec director. Again, he's joined us, which we really appreciate. We ended our meeting last month having a discussion about opportunities for sharing public art and city-owned property. The initial conversation had to do with the glass case in City Hall. It was then recommended that we talk about maybe having some art opportunities at the Parks and Rec Center. So JC was kind to host me and Chair Stevens, and we took a walk around and identified an area that might work that the Parks and Rec Department would be in support of. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with the rec center, but I did take some pictures here so you can kind of see. Let me move this, sorry. But the area would be this wall you're looking at here. It's essentially the wood portion of the wall. It's probably 8 by 4 maybe. Yep. And so we would be so this is just a couple different angles of the space we're looking at. So we would be looking at, putting, a public art display or highlighted artists or some sort of a sign there, and then having some sort of drawings or etchings or different art pieces featured in this area. The rec center currently does feature some art by students at Sunset Elementary. But JC, do you want to talk about this area at all, or what you're currently doing with Sunset?
So currently what we're doing with Sunset on display right behind our, can anybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, you're good.
So currently behind our guest services counter, we have, we've been a Tree City USA. There are 4 standards that the city is required to meet to be that. One of them is to do a proclamation and to have some public input with it. So every year we do a poster contest with all of the classrooms at Sunset Elementary. And then we find a place, it used to be at the old community center where Zach and the chair are right now, but since we transitioned up there. So right behind our guest services counter, we have the poster that won this year's Arbor Day poster contest displayed. We'll keep it there all summer. And then when school starts back up in the fall, we'll return it to the student and to the family. So it's pretty limited, but that's kind of what we got right now. This wall we identified, if you see the white box that's there, that is a speaker. So that's something to take into consideration. But yeah, it's the highest, most visible space. It's in the section of the building that's over, if you're familiar with it at all, where you come in, it's in that community living room space. It's where the largest TV, so it's kind of that defunct place where a lot of families kind of just rotate to if they're not there, to transition back and forth to actually accessing the facility and filling out the required paperwork. This is kind of the main hangout spot. So we felt like after talking about the options that this just kind of was a no-brainer. Is the most highest visibility spot that's within the facility itself. Of course, there are options for outdoor art opportunities that the facility can provide. But I think some more thought, I think just the initial conversation, my understanding of it was that you're looking for some indoor space, and this is kind of seemed to be the natural landing spot to get the most visibility from members of the community.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Do any members of the commission have questions or comments for JC while he's here? I don't want to have him sit through our whole meeting, but I want to take advantage of his presence while we have him.
I would just offer up another thing that we would be interested in as a department is a lot of communities now across the country are taking advantage of opportunities that they have with their water reservoirs to utilize those as pieces of public art with murals and different things that could be portrayed on a massive canvas that's on the side of water towers. And we do have a water reservoir right at our entrance up there. So if you want to think big outside of the box, there's always the potential to do something that could have a very dramatic impact. I guess thinking all the way through it, some of the downsides to taking on a project of that scope would be that, you know, it's a finite life of the piece of art, and you've got to look at having it redone on a time frame. But that would also be an opportunity. You've got a big water tower out there that sure would look a lot more aesthetically pleasing if it had a nice mural of some sort that represented the community. And dovetailing into that, I'd also mention that when we were going through the cultural historical preservation process with the state of Washington, that the Spokane Indian tribe had identified this site as what they thought was a burial ground, because there were several cairns, which, for lack of a better explanation, mounds of rocks that were identified at the site that could be potential burial grounds. So when I met with the historical preservation officer with the Spokane tribe, when we were going through all of the development of the recreation center, he thought that this site was likely at some point in the history of the Spokane tribe, a natural lee station where the tribe would transition back and forth from their hunting grounds at Fort Spokane and back to Spokane Falls area, that this was a natural stop-off point where they would have some hunting grounds out here. So there is some Thai cultural into that. So I think there's just huge potential outside of the facility to dovetail into some of that local cultural history. But that's your guys' purview. I just thought I'd kind of throw that out there. I think I neglected to bring any of that up when we met last week at the site.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for bringing both of those points up. I know one thing, bigger projects tend to possibly cost more, so that might be one concern we'd have to look at, because we're a pretty new commission. And so I don't know exactly what kind of funding we could allocate for something of that size right offhand, but I'll definitely keep it in my notebook. And I think it's something we can definitely continue talking about moving forward.
For sure. JC, when we talked, I'm sorry, you had some ideas regarding theming of art over at the rec center. Can you speak to that at all? About if we did do, rotating art there, what you would like to see in terms of theming, or like just any general theming comments you may have?
I would like to keep it, really broad, but we would like to see something that had some type of a natural tie-in to, what's happening there at the center already. It's kind of where community happens is a big theme that we're pushing forward for this year's Park and Recreation Month in July. That Parks and Recreation is where community happens. So something that has some tie to the cultural diversity of our community. I mean, it can be really broad. Something health and wellness oriented, multi-generational. I think we touch on so many areas that I don't want to act or think that we're trying to paint you into a corner. Well, if it's not fitness oriented, it can't be here. But something that does have a natural tie, a natural fit, that kind of looks like it belongs in the space that is going to be this prominent, where people don't go up and like, why did they put that there? That doesn't make sense. You know, we don't want people scratching their head and asking us questions every 2 minutes about why is that there? You know, so that's self-explanatory type of thing that, you know, you see it and, you know, it's got a title to what it is and what it's doing. So just to purposefully think through the whole process to kind of make the tie-in to why it's being displayed, where it's being displayed.
Absolutely. Do any commissioners on there have thoughts, comments, or anything they'd like to ask or anything? All right.
Okay, I would say that next steps, we can have a little more conversation. I don't want to keep JC for that, but I think we need to talk a little bit about the granular stuff in terms of how we want to do rotating, how we want to do theming, you know, what the time frame is, how we want to review it, stuff like that. And then we can take the notes from that conversation. I can draw up some language and have a draft policy. We can then bring that around to all of our departments that be affected, so Parks and Rec, City Hall guys, and make sure everybody's okay with it. But yeah, thanks JC for coming. We appreciate your comments, and yeah, that's all we got for you.
Thank you so much for explaining everything and for the ideas.
Well, hey, that's my kind of meeting. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, JC.
Have a good one.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's talk about timing. How long would you want to see a rotation be? And this is that's generally for you and as well as the commission. What are your thoughts on, you know, if we're highlighting an artist or a specific theme, do we want to do 6 months? Do we want to do a year, 3 months? And then also, how would you like to, one, advertise that, and two, review the submissions and the whole process? So I just want to get some general ideas to use to build a draft, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of quarterly rotations. I think that gives a good, I mean, that's 4 rotations per year that way, and it gets the chance for, or gives a chance for different artists to be presented and different themes to be made available to the public and stuff. What are everybody else's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm down with quarterly. I think that sounds good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's enough time to be worth it to an artist, you know, whereas like 30 days isn't as worth it, but like 3 months is, but it's also not so long. People are looking at the same art for 6 months or 12 months, you know?
Yeah, plus I think with, I mean, 30 days, we'd have to be constantly going over new entries or new submissions and kind of making calls on that. And I think quarterly gives us a little bit of a buffer zone, so we have time to evaluate stuff and work on different projects as well. So I think quarterly is a pretty strong start.
So doing quarterly, you would be reviewing submissions once every 3 meetings.
Okay.
So that's kind of what that would look like. We're going to talk about submission criteria a little bit later, but that's another thing we're going to want to work on. I can come up with some kind of boilerplate things, and we can discuss that next month.
Yeah.
But that's something where, looking at these types of things, what are the submission criteria we're going to review them on? How are we going to choose what's going up, what's not going up? I can come up again with some kind of generic list of theming. You know, JC talked about theming a little bit there. But yeah, I mean, I think we can get some language going. We can look at doing it quarterly. You will have the ability to review those, once every 3 meetings. We can, advertising is always a problem.
Yeah.
We can get that in the Community Connect newsletter. That's easy. We can put it up on our website. That's easy. It's hard to know though if it's going to be an issue where we're not getting enough submissions until we do it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing. So, okay, well, if it's okay with everyone, I'll write some language up. We'll base it around a quarterly review, and then we can take a look at it next month. And then if there are any changes, we can make those changes. I can take that then to the administration for review.
Okay. Just a quick question in terms of like advertising and raising awareness. What's the possibility of like the art commission having a social page that can share stuff through like the Airway Heights neighbors and news pages, stuff like that.
Yeah. It's tough because again, there's the facilitation of it. Staff can definitely facilitate it. Social media pages, we'll post stuff on our main site through City of Airway Heights, but individual commissions having them, it's a little bit trickier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me look at that
Okay.
and get back to you on that one.
Okay.
And I think advertising somewhere at the rec center with even a flyer or something would be good.
Yeah. Speaking of flyers, Chris, I saw a lot of your work out in Farm Salvation. Awesome stuff. Like
Oh
some of
yeah, great.
the vintage posters and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I forgot it was out there. Is this a good time to ask questions about the theme or the criteria, or is that a later conversation?
Pertaining to the rotational art stuff, is that your?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're in a workshop, so go for it.
Yeah.
Well, the theme that they want being community is what he said. It's broad, which is good. It's very broad, but it means that we're obviously going to have to sift through stuff that doesn't necessarily fit that, right?
Yeah, the theming might be a little tricky. Because again, then at that point, we're asking artists to create art and not necessarily just show art that they've already done.
That was my thought. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how I'm gonna write that yet, to be completely honest with you, but that's something, once we get some language on paper, I want to have a bigger discussion about how to facilitate that. Because I don't know if the commission would be interested in constantly asking for new submissions every 3 months. And at that point, it's like we're asking for a submission every 2 months and reviewing every 3rd month. So then it really starts to take over. And I don't think that's the spirit of what we want to do, is make this something where it's a lot of work. I guess.
Right. Yeah.
So,
We want it to be a constant flow, but yeah, nothing that's gonna overwhelm the whole idea, I think.
well, and we can establish a kind of generic boilerplate theme that we don't rotate. So community, but then that's just the theme for the art, right? So it never changes. So you're seeing people that may submit stuff that may fall into that category, but during the review process, that's where the commission has an opportunity to determine, based on their assigned criteria, whether it does fall into that or not. So.
Well, but just let's say a potter like submits a piece of pottery, like what does that have to do with the community, for example? You know what I'm saying? Like it kind of stifles the artist. Like if they have a creation they just want to show off. And I don't know if this is also open to kind of that boundary map that we talked about for the submission earlier. Like, is this just locals, I'm guessing, like in the West Plains, that are allowed to submit? Like, does that make any sense? Like,
Yeah, no, it's the same exact conversation about submission criteria and who can submit and what does that pertain to. I think it's a good point. And I don't have a good answer. I think I just, for me personally, I like to get something written down and then we can scrutinize it. So, but no, maybe theming's not a good idea. Maybe it's putting, people in too much of, especially with art, you don't want to put them in too much of a box there. So it's definitely something to consider.
And I can, like we can have the conversation, like if something is objectionable or offensive, you know what I'm saying, that we don't put it on display, obviously, but that, again, going back to a piece of pottery, like it doesn't have anything to do with fitness or Airway Heights or the community or anything like that. It's just a local person who loves to make pottery, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we do have, so the goal is to get some language to establish criteria for the rotation of art in these two places. So that place, so even like a pottery is something where, and I talked to this with Matt for a second when we were out at the rec center, where that wall's great, but it's kind of limiting because you're only allowing a certain type of art to be displayed there, right? Art that can be hung on a wall. But we do have a cabinet in City Hall that can take things like pottery or sculpture or other forms of art. No, I think that, yeah, maybe what we can do, and we have it on our existing language right now that we're circulating regarding the submission requirements. There's that language about sexual and explicit material that's kind of separate from the actual criteria. So we can attach that as just an appendice, essentially, like this is always not going to be okay, regardless of whether that's, within the idea of community. So no, let me get some stuff down, and yeah, I think we can, I don't know.
And
Sorry, go
so just to clarify, only pieces that can be hung will be in this spot.
Yes.
Yeah, just
We're,
because
we're not like gonna build a cabinet and put it there, for example.
Right.
Okay.
that's definitely not a conversation we had. I mean, it's something we can talk to JC about. But the conversation was that it would be pieces that would be hung on the wall. Yeah. So
Okay. Just so we know moving forward, if someone submits whatever, it can only be hung pieces. And I guess the other question is like, I'm guessing they have security cameras and stuff like that to deter vandalism and stuff like that. If I'm an artist hanging my work there,
Yeah.
it is a secured
Okay.
facility.
Okay.
And yeah,
Those were
for,
all my questions.
and there is a little cabinet here in City Hall that we had discussed for other types of art for the moment being. I mean, there's obviously possibilities for other cabinets possibly in the future. We do have this one in City Hall. It doesn't get a lot of traffic and might not be super visible, but it's there. So we can always talk about possibilities there as well, in case we do get submissions of like pottery or that sort of thing.
So Zach, and again, I'm sorry to beat this, but if an artist hangs a piece there, because I know a lot of times at public facilities, they'll actually mount things to the wall and nail them down just to prevent theft. If an artist submits something there and it just walks off the wall, can there be language in the submission form that we're not responsible for whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's,
Okay.
and that's why we're having the conversation. That's a great point. So
Okay.
we can definitely build in kind of a liability clause regarding, we're not responsible if someone breaks in and steals the stuff. So
Yeah.
We can always talk about, I don't know if there's like locking brackets or anything like that can be used for mounting art or anything like that, but we definitely want it to be as secure for the artists as possible. I mean, of course. So.
yeah, and you guys are the experts on this, so if there's stuff like that, like Ed, I'm not thinking of, please let me know, so I can build that in. So I'm just here to support your guys' ideas. So
Yeah, I believe when we were on site, JC kind of raised a similar concern saying, well, we don't just want stuff here to have it disappear. He doesn't want to see artists put up art and then just have it disappear either. So the security is definitely one of the major points.
Yeah, I will say this. So like a lot of the artists who have hanging artwork around town, they display it in places like Yokes, a lot of the restaurants, all that stuff. And as far as art stealing has not been a huge problem. I have not come across it. It doesn't happen. But generally in places that have a lot of people in it and staff, people tend to leave the art alone because it's not a Picasso. You know what I'm saying?
sure. Yeah.
We don't have a lot of art thieves around. So, I mean, while it's a concern, I don't know how often it, like how big of a concern it may be, because it just doesn't seem to be that big of a problem so far.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
what
as
is-
long as we're putting that language in there that we assume no liability or anything like that, then it's on the artist to take the risk, So
And I can have our legal department vet that to make sure it's safe.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Michaela, you did bring up a point though about art hanging in restaurants and stuff like that. And typically when I go to a restaurant, I see artists hanging their stuff. All that stuff's for sale, right? So I don't, and I hate asking questions as like the representative for the city, right? But is that something we want to talk about or consider about whether the displayed art on city property is available for purchase or not?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's any sort of legalities or whatever behind it, but at the very least, the artist could have like a card to link to their media or whatever to buy their other pieces. Cause I'm sure if they have one piece up, it's not the only piece. So even if we don't have it for sale specifically, we can just be like, have that sort of social media card. So at least they're getting something out of it and it is pushing people to be able to buy their artwork.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking it would be good to have like a nameplate spot or something under each piece so people could have a business card or something like that presented with their art, definitely.
Great. Cool. Yeah, and we can build that into the language as well, so we make sure it's, you know, kind of enshrined in the policy. So cool.
Cool. And Lynn, I think, weren't you the one that kind of initially suggested the rec center for a possibility, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, I did. And I think that's a great wall to use. And I think that having a cabinet at City Hall gives us a chance to move art that can't be mounted on the wall to that area. I think that this could be a really easy thing to manage if we looked at it on a yearly basis. So figure out what the, you know, what our themes are going to be, or whether we're going to go ahead and divide the quarters up maybe into different audiences, maybe to professional artists a quarter, and open up some sort of, you know, thing for them to do as far as whatever the theme is. You know, we can do community, but we can give them maybe a little bit more idea about what that would entail. You know, we could do historical art, you know, photographs, you know, we can just divide it up by media or by the audiences. Maybe do a quarter with kids art, you know, and a quarter with maybe just Airway Heights residents. There's a lot of ways we can go and do that, but we should look at it as like a year project and kind of get ahead of the selection,
Yeah.
you know, for the entire year before we kind of start out with this.
Yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. Okay. And anything else you wanted?
No, these are all great ideas. This gives me a place to start. I will prepare some language as a draft set of rules, and we'll get them to you next month, and we'll cut them up and make it work. So
Cool. Perfect. Right, and on to the next item, which is now the public.
sorry, I'm trying to get
The,
the share going here. As you can see, this is very obnoxious.
Okay, and now on to workshop item. Well, it's C swapped up to B, so the public art adopted strategies review.
Yeah, so I just wanted to walk through the public art plan that was adopted in 2019. I encourage everybody to read through the full plan. It provides a lot of really good language about a lot of things that we've been talking about. This workshop was actually specifically designed in response to some of Lisa's comments from last meeting, but since she's not here, that's unfortunate. But let me get my notes out real quick. We'll go through it real quick, and if you have any questions or if you want to expand and have a conversation on any of the items in here, it's a workshop, it's an open space, so feel free and ask and talk and do whatever you need to do. So the art plan, this is the acknowledgements and who worked on it. As you can see, my name and Heather's name, neither of our names are on here because we did not work on this. This plan came in, I believe it was about 6 months before Heather got here, which is about 8-9 months before I got here. So we did adopt this as something that was done before our time. So I'm not intimately familiar with it, but I did read through it, and I do have some enough to guide you through it. So executive summary, and if I'm going too fast, please tell me to stop. But I don't want to spend any time on the executive summary. So there are 3 main sections. The first section is the background section. What this does is it actually breaks down the context areas that we've discussed and how we defined our downtown area. So this comes from a separate plan here. It's called the US2 corridor plan. It's available on our website under subdivision areas, excuse me, if you want to know more on that. But the context area that we've been focusing on, because that's where our initial funding is designed for, is that context area 4, which is the historic heart of downtown Airway Heights. So this is where that initially came from. This is why we're focusing on that area. This chapter then expands a little bit into the history. It's very similar to that language we have in our call to artists, but it's fleshed out more. It has a lot more information. So it talks about the historical presence of the Native American tribes. It also gets into the more recent culture, Fairchild Air Force Base, pretty much everything you would expect to see in the history of Airway Heights is here. Here are some pictures from the Kalispell art over at the casino, which we took a tour of a couple weeks ago. And there's the Spokane tribe and Fairchild Air Force Base. It then expands into discussing the new corridor. This plan is talking a lot to the US2 corridor plan, really because we're expanding roundabouts, and we have a plan to essentially do some new street designs. I believe I've shown those in a previous meeting of kind of what we're looking to do for a boulevard design on Highway 2.
Yeah.
And this is just some of that layout. So this gets into partnerships and opportunities. Again, it's exactly what you think it's going to be, Fairchild, Spokane tribe. But some of the opportunity areas include city-owned property, which we've talked about. And here you see the Craig Road roundabout, which isn't in place yet, but will be. But again, this is just really focusing on who can we work with and where are our opportunities to do projects. So Airway Heights Parks, so the skate park, the old community center and the new. The old community center is essentially the city hall, which is where we're at right now, and the new rec center, which we talked about earlier in the meeting. Temporary performance art. We do Airway Heights days every year, but we are looking, and part of our downtown plan actually had calls for a civic center for performance art. So that's in some of our long-term plans. We'll see how that goes over time. Roundabouts are a great opportunity for art. As everybody knows, they naturally create a space in the middle of them. You've seen towns do all sorts of stuff, but we are very familiar with that just because, conscious of that because we know we're going to get probably at least 2 more roundabouts, maybe a few more. Okay. So as those are planning, we're keeping that in mind for our public art space. And same goes for sidewalk and right of way. Again, as a Highway 2 in the next 5-10 years gets redeveloped into a boulevard concept, there's going to be space to put new art pieces. So we're keeping that in mind as well. The second section, which is kind of the heart of the art plan, is called the art plan. And what it does is it provides guiding principles for the art commission to follow when looking at public art. So these include connectivity, placemaking, identity, collaboration, heritage and culture, and sustainability. Get down here. And again, I know I'm going 1,000 miles an hour, but I don't want to take too much time. This is available. It's in your packet. It was also sent to you initially. So I really suggest everyone take a good look at it. This chart here is actually, it's the result of a workshop that SCJ Alliance, who was the planning firm that designed this before Heather and I got here, they did a workshop with some local stakeholders and community members and identified several topics. So when we're talking about topics and we're talking about community, Some of that work's already been done, and some of these are really good. And they are, broad topics broken down into specific items here. So tribal, agriculture, small town, aviation, military, natural vegetation, those sort of things. So there's some really good ways of just framing, community in terms of Airway Heights and how it pertains to art. In this next portion here, the categorical elements. So these are guiding elements for commissioned artists. So these are for bigger projects, really. So when we're looking at commissioning artists to say, do maybe a sculpture in the middle of a roundabout or something like this, or, something temporary. So you're looking at elements of distinction here. So this first one is distinction, which again is just about uniqueness. The second item is for continuity. So again, if we're looking at doing a design for downtown Airway Heights, how that builds out over, 10 years, we have design elements that are consistent and provide identity throughout the area. And the third was the element of change, which again, more pertains to temporary and active projects. So performance art, things like that. And this just kind of expands on all that, but it's all really good language. And we talked about a mission and vision. This section of this art plan is where you're going to find that. This should give you some really clear direction on what the city's looking to do for public art, and kind of you're a part of that. You're that first step in establishing a public art commission, excuse me. The third portion here is implementation. So it's how do we take these ideas and implement them? And this is a lot of, strategies, things like that. This starts with city policies. And this is kind of where we started, where we did a public arts ordinance. We then, established the commission, brought you guys in, and then it's kind of next steps after that. So if you're kind of wondering where we're headed, this lays it out from a city policy standpoint. There's a financing standpoint. How are we going to finance that? We've adopted in our public art ordinance specific pieces where, a portion of each public project will go to public art to fund that. Our agency coordination, how are we going to coordinate with, WatchDOT something, right? Because they maintain Highway 2. So anything we do on there, we have to talk to them, different.
No.
Sorry, different strategies on how to coordinate with that. Next is public partnerships and engaging artists again. So this plan, what it's designed to do is to give you a roadmap. And to really give you some background on what Airway Heights is, what we want to do with the art plan, and how we're going to facilitate the art plan. So I just wanted to go over it quickly. And again, everybody has a copy of this. So if you have a second, it's not a horrible idea to read through it. The last portion here, which kind of leads into the next section, this is kind of why I wanted to flip the sections a little bit, because it makes a little more sense. So this is the process for public arts commissions that we've established. It talks about RFQs, which are requests for qualifications. This initial project doesn't require an RFQ. So there's open solicitations and limited solicitations. But what I wanted to get down here, sorry. It's really hard because there's the Zoom is covering like a quarter of the screen. So I'm trying to follow it, but half of it's gone. The number 3 here is the evaluation process and the evaluation criteria. So what we're going to do in the next workshop here is talk about evaluation criteria for the art that's going to go in the utility box. So I wanted to just give an idea of what the actual evaluation process looks like within our arts plan, so you can take that and move forward with it. Half of this art plan is appendices, because the good folks at SCJ are really, really, really thorough, and we appreciate them for that. But the evaluation process and the criteria, so proposal evaluation criteria should be established for each project and should include artistic quality of past work is demonstrated in images of past work. B, experience in creating artwork in the public realm. If the artist does not have experience creating public art, they would need to demonstrate an understanding of how to translate work into a public setting. And C, ability to create an artwork budget and meet the schedule. So those are, again, they're more designed for bigger projects, right?
Yeah.
So it's just somewhere to start. But with that, we can have, if you guys have any questions or comments on this, if not, we can move into having that discussion about establishing some evaluation criteria for the utility box project.
Good on my end. Does anybody else have any questions or comments, or we want to hop into the criteria conversation? All righty, I think we're,
Okay, so then we can go to the final item, which is the utility box criteria. I can leave this up if you want, or.
okay. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I was just waiting for you to finish your notes there.
Yeah, no, we're all good.
So,
Sorry, typically Heather's here. Obviously, she's not here, so Heather and I can kind of bounce notes back and forth, but I'm trying to be a little more thorough since I don't have a backup. So.
all right, so criteria for the utility box conversation. I don't know the specific term that's used on the item here. I'd have to bring up the downtown revitalization project submission review criteria. Item B in the workshops. Okay.
Yeah, so essentially what we'd like to do here is establish some specific criteria that we're going to use to review the submissions. So when we get submissions in, we'll be looking at this list and saying, you know, okay, well, does this artist have any previous artwork in the public realm? Is that something that you want to use as a, you know, so really, I think 3 to 5 different criterias will probably work. And this is something we can use once, and then the next time we do a project, we can vet it and change it. But we do need an initial set of criteria. And the criteria outlined within the art plan here, they're a good place to start. But again, I think the scope of what they're asking for may be a little heavy for a utility box. But yeah, it's whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, like with an artwork budget and stuff, I don't think that would be applicable. for
It doesn't really,
something of
yeah,
this
it
scale,
seems
so.
like it wouldn't be really applicable. So.
Well, I mean, I think one obvious piece of criteria is, does the artist live within the designated boundaries? Especially this, we're making it specifically for this area. I mean, that's an easy criteria right there. That's really important to the project.
Absolutely. And like, considering this criteria, are we looking for somebody that already has kind of a public presence as an artist, that where they have stuff established, or is this a small enough project where we wouldn't necessarily have to say you have to have this much work already displayed or something like that? I mean, it's everybody.
I feel like because we're asking them to show us a design, correct?
Yeah,
For judging based on a design, I don't really care whether they've had public art before because we're judging. So I feel like it would be nice to open it up to newer artists just by the, like, hey, you don't have to have experience of it, but we're going to take a look at what your submission is. And if it's what we're looking for, then yeah, you have this opportunity.
yep, that was my thoughts too, to keep it open. More of an open policy, I think, for that one, so.
And the idea of having this, we're already translating the work into a public setting because we've selected the
Yeah.
box. We know kind of what the parameters is around this utility box. So we've translated the work into the public setting. All they need to do is come with the art for us. So I don't think that we need to put that as part of our criteria. They don't have to have experience doing that. It's something that's already been set forward just based on our parameters we've set forth.
Obviously, we'd probably want a criteria that says adherence to theme, which still kind of a broad criteria. And I guess we as a commission can, you know, individually discuss that based on the pieces if we think it fits into the theme, but that's another, you know, like, hey, it should fit the theme.
Let's see. I'm gonna pull up the language real quick so we can review that to see if there's anything specific in that language that may pertain to this. Got two different 5/8. Yeah, I just didn't change it. So this is we have made the amendments that you asked for last meeting. I apologize, I don't have it in front of me right now. But this is the general language, so if that helps kind of spark any ideas.
I guess I have a question, since this is gonna be like, there's gonna be a certain size to this, and I obviously know that we'll blow it up, but do we have a size that we're looking for this sketch?
I don't think we asked for any specific design element that included that. I know, Chris, you sent over that, the dimensions over to Heather, I believe, right?
I think you are also included on that email. I'm almost positive I sent it to both of you, but it has the size in inches and everything like that. It's just a blank template for artists.
Okay, is there, I mean, there are kind of typical sizings we could do, you know, pretty standard stuff. Is there anything we should include in the language that would, just to make sure we're not giving them an incorrect size for a design? I mean, could it just be like 8.5 by 11, or do we need something bigger? Do we need something smaller? I guess this is a technical question. I just don't know.
Well, we should create some sort of template for them, because obviously it's rectangular is what I'm guessing. It's not a square.
Yeah,
Not all the sides are equal, not, it's not a square, so is it a rectangular? And we want to make sure that the art fills the entire space. So, I mean, we could take the dimensions of the wrap and bring that down to something that's more like the size of a piece of paper. I mean, we would have to give them some sort of template for that.
Yeah, that's the template that I made, and it's a piece of paper size, and it's just a blank. It's the box, it's blank, but it has all the dimensions on it as well. So
okay, great.
so Heather should have that. So whatever information that we're giving out to the artist as far as a call, that should be included. You know, either a link or part of the packet or whatever. You know. So.
Yeah, we can definitely include that within the packet. And I apologize, it's been a couple weeks since I've looked at it, so I just couldn't remember.
No, that's okay.
But we can definitely do that. So that could be a criteria though, like would the design fit appropriately to the design elements that are requested?
So just from a technical aspect, I know this is just a guess, but I'm guessing that the final submission is probably going to have to be submitted in vector form because if you take a small, piece of paper like that and someone did this amazing sketch on it, blowing it up that big, you're going to see a loss, and it'll be blurry and kind of bumpy and everything like that. So I'm not sure about that process and how tech savvy everybody is, but I guarantee that the printer of the wrap is probably going to want the file in a vector format, is my guess. But Because we're talking about something, on the size of a piece of paper, and it's the size of a person in
Yeah.
the end, so.
Okay, so we can have submission criteria that requires it to be in the appropriate format. So if we do get a really cool design, but it's not something we could use, then it would be disqualified. So we could always go back and, that's within your realm, of decision making to say, hey, we really like your design, but the format's incorrect. Can you fix this? So that's always a possibility, but we do need to, I think Chris is right that we need to consider the technical aspects of this within the
Oh, yeah.
criteria. So
Big time. Yeah.
so we have so right now we have 3. So does the artist reside within the established boundary? Is the proposed art adherence to the current theme, which is essentially, does the submission match what we're asking for in the language? And is the submission in the correct formatting? So the technical side of things.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I feel like that's all we need for this particular project. I don't feel like it's more complicated than it already is.
Yep.
Okay.
And
So-
we could just go ahead and do some sort of scoring system. So
Yeah.
that each of the commissioners can go ahead and score individually their thoughts on each one of these submissions. And then we pick the one that has the highest, average score.
I really like that idea.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we will, again, I'll create a draft of this for next month. It'll be an Excel sheet. It'll probably be on a 10-point scale. So all of 3 of these items you can grade on a 1 to 10 scale. 2 of them are kind of automatic though. So it's going to be either 0 or 10. But so the one that really matters is the adherence to theme.
Yeah.
And what we'll do, we'll have a chance to review that. You'll also have a month to think about this. We actually, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but we are going to have to push the submission back an extra month. We were unable to get it in time for city council. And then the last week they didn't meet. So it is going to city council to authorize the funds to be distributed. It'll go on Monday to our study session and then at the legislative session the following Monday. So submissions will go through July. We'll review them in August. So that'll allow us to review this draft and the other draft in the July meeting. So we have a little bit more time.
Which should work out anyway, because they'll be replacing the box this summer, I think. And so we'd have to wait until the box is replaced to really get this moving anyway. So this will just gives us a little bit extra time. So
yeah, so you're looking at probably installation in September.
Is it possible to get a picture of the said utility box as part of the information that we give to the artists?
Yeah. Yeah, I can go out and snap a picture of it and include it within the packet. Absolutely.
And Zach, do you know who the printer is going to be of the wrap?
I don't. Heather's been looking more at the printing and technical side of this more than I have. I know she's been leaning fairly heavily on Spokane Arts, so it may be a recommendation from whoever Spokane Arts uses. But I would have to check with Heather on that one if she already has someone lined up or if that's the step we need to take care of.
Yeah, so if you want to connect with her and just find out what their requirements are and include that link in the packet as well for the artist.
Yes, I can do that. I'll make sure that all of the technical items that the printer would need is also listed within that listing before it goes out.
Okay, sounds good.
okay. I think we're good on that.
Yeah.
Anybody? No more comment? Okay. Cool. And on to commissioner reports. The only thing I would have to report, we already discussed with the rec center, just going out there and seeing what they have available. And Super appreciative of JC taking the time to just meet and explain kind of what they have available and for the future possibilities too, so. And thanks to you for the invite on that, so. Any reports from anybody else or?
No, I just wanted to say that that was very exciting news that JC shared about the water tower, and I'm not sure if we as a commission can if that's in our budget or if that's even in the future, but I think it's a very exciting project for the city of Airway Heights to pursue, and that's just my recommendation. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, I agree 100%. As far as I know, we only have funding for the downtown project.
As of right now, yeah.
So
There are grant opportunities and things like that, though,
Yeah.
that I'm being very careful with my language on that for obvious reasons.
Yep.
But I will look into that and kind of, dip my toe in the water there and talk to Heather and see if that's something we could possibly do. So,
Yeah, because I agree, that would be a great, big, nice, vibrant centerpiece kind of thing for the Airway Heights, so. I'm excited. Yeah, when he said outdoor art and then mentioned the water tower too, that's awesome stuff, so.
And which is it? The water tower in Sunset, or is there another one that he was talking about?
The rec center.
yeah, the one specifically he was referring to, if you go out to the rec center, there's actually a water tower right next door to the rec center. So it's out off
That's
Dino.
cool.
Yeah, so it's
Cool.
a different water tower that has no art on it as of right now.
Cool.
Cool. Any staff reports or anything on your end, or? I mean, you've given us a lot today anyway, so.
Yeah, no, yeah, again, I apologize. Heather's unfortunate. She had a scheduling conflict. And I wanted to talk about the schedule again, because I do that every month now. So typically we actually meet every second Monday, but for some reason last month I said first Monday. So here we are. Michaela knows that I was wrong. I appreciate it. So I wanted to have that conversation about what works for everybody schedule wise. Obviously we're down 3 commissioners today, which is fairly concerning, and I'll check in. I did reach out to Cosette, haven't heard back from her. So that's another conversation to have, but would you guys like to maintain the first Monday? Do you want to do the second Monday? Is there anything else? I would love to get on a regular schedule just for my sanity. It helps, but whatever you guys need to do, we're here to help. So
Cool.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I know. I think we were working it out on the second week of each month, and it was working better.
Okay.
I'm wondering if that's why maybe we're short a few commissioners today, because it was bumped
Might
up a
be, yeah.
week. But I'm good with second Mondays. I don't know if everybody else is still good with that.
Well, next month, the first Monday of the month is July 3rd. So that's going to be too close to 4th of July. So I suggest we just keep it as the second Monday of the month.
Okay, so that would be July 10th, or excuse me, no, July 10th. That's right.
Yep.
Is everyone okay then with July 10th for next month, and then tentatively just scheduling it as the second Monday moving forward? Okay. Chris, is that okay with you?
Yeah, either one works for me. Yeah.
Okay. I will get it on the schedule for July 10th. And again, I apologize. We have a lot of public meetings, and for some reason I thought we were meeting the first Monday. So that's just me. So I apologize.
That's all right.
But no, that's really all I got for staff reports. I'll get everybody some drafts to look at for July. And again, we'll hopefully be reviewing submissions in August. And selfishly, Chris, I wanted to check in. How is the Save the Garland project going? I haven't heard anything on it lately, but I saw you were working on that.
Yeah. It's moving slow, but the positive news is it's actually moving in the right direction. So fingers crossed, it's not out in the public yet, but I think we've saved it. I'm going to be teaming up with Tyler Arnold with Jedi Alliance, and we're going to be taking over the business and running that. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we get keys July 1st. So, and amazing opportunities as far as grant opportunities out there for the heating system and cooling and just general historical funding. So a lot of possibilities and a lot of potential, but it looks at this point, it looks like we saved it. So
It's fantastic. Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you for that. I know it doesn't relate to Airway Heights, but I was keeping an eye on that one.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, well, that's all I got.
Awesome stuff. I think we can call this meeting adjourned, 3:10 PM then. Thank you all so much and have an awesome afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.